This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by Peninsula Regional Medical Center.
For many women over 50, sex education wasn't taught in schools during the years they attended. HIV and AIDS weren't really known about yet, and STDs, while around, weren't discussed openly as they are today.
Well, that lack of knowledge is showing up in the number of diagnoses of sexually transmitted diseases. And according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the diagnoses of commonly sexually transmitted diseases have doubled in 50 to 90-year-olds within the last 10 years.
But as we know, it can strike any age group if you're sexually active. According to a recent article, there are 6 million new HPV infections each year, with 20 million people currently infected. 700,000 people are diagnosed with gonorrhea. 2.8 million will be diagnosed with chlamydia. 1 million new herpes cases will be diagnosed. 1 in 6 already have it.
And this is one that I've never heard of before, the trichomonas. 7.4 million people contract that each and every year. Pam Fleckenstein is Program Director for the Women's Prevention and Wellness Services at Peninsula Regional Medical Center. Thank you so much
for
coming
pleasure.
in to join us this afternoon. You usually think of STDs as something that younger people in their 20s come up with.
That's correct. We are seeing an increase in women 50 and older. However, the majority of cases still remain in the younger population, 19 to 25. That's where we see the greatest increase. But I guess the most alarming increase is in women that are 50 and older.
Now, what are there specific STDs that you're seeing in this age set?
Well, I've read in a lot of journals that trichomonas is probably the most common STD that seems to be increasing. But we're seeing increases in HIV, unfortunately. We're seeing increases in herpes. We're seeing increases in chlamydia. However, if you look at the CDC statistics, the rates are dropping in gonorrhea and syphilis.
Why do you think these increases are occurring?
Well, I have a couple of my own ideas as to why, and things that I've read. There's no real hardcore data exactly explaining why this is happening. I've read 3 British studies, but no American studies. But essentially it's Viagra is very prevalent, easily prescribed. Everybody that wants it gets it. This is making older adults sexually active longer. The other thing is that there's internet dating now. There's a lot of different internet groups that you can hook up a lot easier than women that may be 50 or older don't want to go to a bar to meet somebody. Much easier to establish a relationship on the internet. The other thing, and this is a little bit political, but I think there is a substantial cut in funding for public health. And this includes education, which would include counselors that are in the schools that would be providing education to the younger population, as well as STD follow-up. They don't have the money to afford the staff to find the culprits, or kind of going back to the start of where did this STD originate.
A lot of these diseases have symptoms. Some are known, some not. Do you think that everyone, or not enough people, are educated on these symptoms?
I think a lot of women aren't aware of what the symptoms are. They hear a lot about cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, women in the age group that we're talking about. They don't hear a lot about STD symptoms, and typically women are the last to take care of themselves. They're the nurturers, the care providers. They're taking care of family members and not necessarily taking care of themselves. So they do need more education as to what some of the symptoms are. However, a lot of the symptoms are insidious, and some are asymptomatic.
Well, we heard a lot about HIV and AIDS growing up, and we're beginning to see more of that.
Correct.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think we're seeing more in the heterosexual population. And again, this is just kind of a trickle-down effect, and more people, despite the fact HIV was pretty well publicized, particularly in the 90s to the mid-90s. I think you had to be living under a rock no matter what age you were not to know about HIV, the dangers, and what you need to do to protect yourselves. We're just sort of seeing the aftermath. And again, a lot of heterosexual couples did not consider themselves at risk, when in fact they were.
Yeah, that's not the case anymore. Now, here's another reason to quit smoking, because there's actually a connection between smoking and STDs.
Some STDs, not all STDs. I think the human papillomavirus has an affinity to the chemicals in cigarettes, and women whose immune system would naturally clear the virus can't clear it. There's an affinity for the virus to the chemicals, and they kind of hook together like little puzzle pieces that don't want to separate. Therefore, you can't clear this virus as easily. And it does make other viruses harder to treat simply because their immune systems are compromised somewhat.
Knowledge is key.
Absolutely.
Knowledge is key.
And we thank you for that knowledge.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for joining us very much this afternoon. It was wonderful.
Thanks.
And of course, if you missed any of this information or you would like to learn more, just go to our website, delmarvalife.com, click on the show tab. Well, certainly some eye-opening information and other statistics that might shock you. Most ladies are wearing the wrong bra size. That's why you should have a professional measure you. That's exactly what they do at Something Comfortable, how they say a bra should fit to keep you comfortable.
A little bit later on, if you're getting ready for the big games, well, we've got some finger food for the parties. We're going to be in the kitchen with that and a delicious drink to wash it all down.
Delmarva Life at its best. Here on Delmarva, we'll be right back.